the corridor where loyalty was tested. The palace never truly slept. Even at 2:17 a.m., Buckingham Palace breathed, old stone holding centuries of secrets, ancient floorboards whispering under careful footsteps, chandeliers glowing like watchful eyes over silent corridors. Sergeant Amelia Rhodes knew every inch of those corridors. 12 years of royal service had carved discipline into her bones. She had stood guard during coronations, funerals, state crises, and celebrations. She had learned the most sacred rule of palace
Alert
service.
confirmed. Initiating
See
lockdown.
everything.
Rerouting
Say
power
nothing.
to containment.
Remember
Threat level
nothing.
rising. Deploying
Until
countermeasure.
tonight. The
Good
sound
evening,
came
officer. I have an
sharp,
appointment.
not loud
Halt.
but raw.
State your business.
Human.
With the minister.
Emotional.
It's urgent.
Uncontrolled.
Papers.
Amelia
My lady, the
froze
enemy
mid-step
advances. I
outside the
must go.
private rose
Must you?
drawing
The risk
room.
is so great.
She had never
It is my
heard Her
duty.
Majesty
I will
Queen
return.
Camilla sound like
We
that.
cannot delay.
I will
They
not
are
be
closing
pushed
in.
aside.
I know.
The words
But
cut
trust
through
is
the
hard
oak
won.
doors like
Then
broken
let this be the
glass.
start.
Amelia's
I
training
have urgent
screamed,
information.
move,
Go on.
continue
The
patrol.
situation has
Ignore.
escalated. I
But
understand.
instinct,
Be ready.
deeper than training, rooted
The
her in
hour
place.
is upon us.
It was February
I am at your
2026.
command, Your Majesty.
For 3 weeks, headlines had screamed across
Keep
the
pace.
world.
We're almost there.
Abdication
Clear the
rumors
way.
rocked the monarchy.
Vital stable.
Health
Let's move.
fears surround the king. Is a new era coming sooner than expected? The palace had denied everything. But Amelia had eyes. The
court
canceled
awaits our
public
presence.
events.
Yes, Your
Late-night
Majesty,
medical
we shall
convoys. Senior staff walking like ghosts through corridors. Something was wrong. And behind this door, history was shifting. Inside, Queen Camilla spoke again, lower now, more dangerous. I waited 4 decades. For decades. And now they want to shorten my time? Like I'm some placeholder? Another voice answered, calm, controlled. Sir Malcolm Reeves, Chief Private Secretary. Your Majesty, this is about continuity. Stability. The crown must think long-term. A sharp laugh. I am stability. I held him together through public hatred. Through scandals. Through grief. Through humiliation. Amelia's heartbeat thundered. She knew she should leave. Instead, she leaned closer, just slightly. The doctors are clear, Reeves continued. His condition is advancing faster than expected. Silence. Then footsteps. Slow pacing. Then Camilla again, softer. Calculated. Doctors can be wrong. Reeves hesitated. Your Majesty. Medical opinions change. Treatment plans evolve. Prognosis is not destiny. Amelia felt cold crawl through her spine. Are you suggesting? I'm suggesting, Camilla said, voice almost a whisper, that hope is powerful. And sometimes hope needs guidance. The air outside the room felt poisoned. Amelia stepped back. Her boot made the faintest sound against marble. Inside, silence fell instantly. Then, did you hear that? Reeves asked. The door handle moved. Amelia had 3 choices. Run, hide, or face them. She stepped forward and knocked. Security check, Your Majesty. Routine patrol. The door opened. Sir Malcolm stood there, composed, unreadable. Behind him, Queen Camilla sat near the fireplace, posture perfect, expression calm. But her eyes were red. Not weak red. Furious red. Everything is fine, Sergeant, Reeves said smoothly. Amelia saluted. Yes, sir. She turned to leave. Sergeant. Camilla's voice stopped her cold. Yes, Your Majesty. How long were you outside that door? Time slowed. Every training drill. Every oath. Every survival instinct screamed at once. I had just arrived, ma'am. I heard raised voices and wanted to ensure your security. Camilla studied her like a chess player studies a board. Then she smiled. Not warmly. Precisely. What is your name? Sergeant Amelia Rhodes, ma'am. How long have you served? 12 years, Your Majesty. 12 years, Camilla repeated softly. Then you know the most important rule of palace service. Amelia swallowed. Yes, ma'am. Discretion. Camilla stood and stepped closer. Some conversations, if misunderstood, could destroy families, careers, nations. The message was crystal clear. Yes, Your Majesty. Good. Camilla turned away. You may return to your post. Amelia left. But her world had shifted. The next morning the palace buzzed, but wrong. People avoided her eyes. Conversations stopped when she entered rooms. At 10:03 a.m., Commander Willis summoned her. Rhodes, you're being reassigned. Her stomach dropped. Sir? Effective immediately. Balmoral security rotation. But Balmoral is closed for winter. Exactly. It wasn't reassignment. It was removal. Exile. May I ask why, sir? Willis finally met her eyes. Take the transfer. Please. That one word told her everything. That afternoon, Amelia did something she had never done in her career. She contacted a journalist, Daniel Park, investigative royal correspondent known for publishing uncomfortable truths. They met in a quiet cafe far from palace routes. "You're risking everything being here," Daniel said. "I need information," Amelia replied. "The abdication rumors." "How serious?" Daniel studied her. "Very." Her hands trembled around her tea. "The king's condition is worse than publicly known." "And the queen?" Daniel hesitated. "Sources say she's resistant. Angry. Feels history is being stolen from her." Amelia closed her eyes briefly. "What if," she said quietly, "someone was influencing medical decisions?" Daniel leaned forward instantly. "That's not palace drama. That's constitutional crisis." "I don't have proof," she said. "But if I did? I'd publish, if it's real." He slid a card across the table. "The palace doesn't forgive whistleblowers." "I know." That night she was followed. By the third tube change she was certain. Then her phone buzzed. A known number. "Talking to journalists is unwise. Your father's care home in Sussex is expensive. It would be unfortunate if funding became complicated." Ice filled her chest. They knew everything. At 5:42 a.m. her phone rang again. A known number. She answered. "Sergeant Rhodes." A woman's voice. "Come. Direct." "This is Princess Anne." Amelia sat straight up. "I need to see you." "Not over phone." "Hyde Park. 7 a.m. "Your Royal Highness. This is about my brother. And about whether you're willing to protect the crown, or protect yourself." The line went dead. Dawn over Hyde Park was cold and gray. Princess Anne arrived alone. No escort. No insignia. "Walk," she said. They walked in silence until deep along the serpentine path. Then Anne spoke. "I know what you heard." Amelia said nothing. "My brother is dying," Anne said plainly. The words hit like impact. "Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. Amelia stopped breathing. "He wants to abdicate with dignity. While he still can." "And the queen?" Amelia asked quietly. Anne's jaw tightened. "She wants time. Legacy. Recognition." They walked again. Then Anne stopped. "It's worse than disagreement." Amelia waited. "Medical interference," Anne said. His oncologist was replaced. Suddenly. By whom? Someone loyal to Camilla. Amelia's pulse roared. "You need proof," she said. And nodded. "I need someone inside." Amelia thought of the threats. Her father. Her career. Her oath. "Why me?" And looked directly into her eyes. "Because you knocked instead of running." Silence. "Can you do this?" And asked. Amelia thought about loyalty, duty, truth, and the kind of history written by silence. "Yes," she said. And in that moment, her life changed forever. The crown's hidden war. The palace looked the same. That was the most terrifying part. Tourists still gathered outside iron gates. Ceremonial guards still stood motionless under grey London skies. Royal flags still moved in the wind like history itself refusing to change. But inside Buckingham Palace, a silent war had begun. And Sergeant Amelia Rhodes was now standing in the middle of it. Amelia returned to duty the next morning like nothing had changed. She walked the same corridors. Nodded to the same staff. Checked the same security logs. But now she saw everything differently. Every whisper felt like code. Every closed door felt like a secret. At 8:10 a.m., Commander Willis approached her in the East Wing corridor. "Rhodes?" "Sir." He handed her a new assignment sheet. Effective immediately, temporary reassignment to the Queen's internal residence security rotation. Amelia blinked once. That was the opposite of exile. That was access. Princess Anne had kept her word. "Yes, sir." Willis leaned closer. Quietly. "Be careful." Then he walked away. The Queen's internal residence required different clearance. More private. Less ceremonial. More personal. At 10 a.m., Amelia took position outside Queen Camilla's private corridor. Footsteps approached. Lady Margaret Hensley, Camilla's senior personal aide. Late 50s. Sharp eyes. Permanent controlled smile.
Alert confirmed.
"You're new here,"
Initiating
Hensley
lockdown.
said.
Rerouting
"Temporary
power to containment.
rotation,
Threat
ma'am."
level rising. Deploying
Hensley studied
countermeasures.
her. "Her Majesty values loyalty." "I understand." "Good." Hensley walked away. Amelia noted everything. Tone. Expression. Timing. 2 days passed. Nothing unusual. Almost. Then on the third night at 11:42 p.m., Camilla's personal physician arrived. Dr. Julian Mercer. No, private. Not publicly listed on royal medical boards. Amelia logged his entry. But something felt wrong. He stayed only 18 minutes. Too short for a full evaluation. Too long for a simple check-in. When he exited, he avoided eye contact. His hands shook slightly. Fear. That night, Amelia texted a single encrypted message. Doctor confirmed. Need background. Princess and replied only. Proceed carefully. The next step was riskier. Accessing internal medical transfer records. Not hacking. Not illegal. Just using her clearance in ways nobody expected. At 2:14 a.m., during low system traffic, Amelia accessed physician credential verification logs. Dr. Julian Mercer. Credentials valid. But recently fast-tracked. Signed authorization. Special royal directive. Approval authority. Queen's private office. Not standard royal medical council. Not normal. The next day something changed. Camilla called Amelia inside. The private sitting room smelled of expensive tea and old books. Sergeant Rhodes, Camilla said calmly.
Officer, I have an appointment.
Yes, Your Majesty.
State your business.
You've served the crown for many years.
Papers.
Yes, ma'am. Tell me, do you believe loyalty means protecting people? Yes. Even from themselves? Amelia felt the trap forming. I believe loyalty means protecting the crown, ma'am. Camilla smiled slightly. Good answer. She stepped closer. History judges winners kindly, Sergeant. Amelia said nothing. Remember that. That night, Amelia met Daniel Park again. This time in a crowded public restaurant. No phones on table, he said immediately. Agreed. She spoke quietly. New private doctor. Fast-tracked clearance. Non-standard approval. Daniel froze. That's huge. I don't have proof of wrongdoing yet. But you think something's wrong? Yes. Daniel leaned back. If you're right, this isn't palace politics. This is national-level manipulation. I know. The pressure increased. 2 days later, Amelia found her apartment door slightly open. Nothing stolen. Nothing moved. Just a message written on her bathroom mirror. Loyalty has rewards. Disloyalty has consequences. She cleaned it immediately. But her hands shook for hours. That night, Princess Anne called again. You're being watched more closely now. I know. My brother is weaker this week. Amelia closed her eyes. We're running out of time. I know. Silence. Then Anne said quietly. There is something else. Amelia waited. My brother signed preliminary abdication draft last week. Her breath stopped. But it's not filed yet.
I will return.
Why? Because Camilla convinced him to wait for new treatment results. Amelia understood instantly. If the new doctor kept giving hope, the abdication could be delayed. Until it was too late. The next breakthrough came unexpectedly. Late night. Staff hallway. Lady Hensley arguing quietly on phone. No, he must keep the messaging consistent. Pause. Yes, he understands what Her Majesty expects. Amelia pretended to check security panel. Heart racing. He knows optimism is critical right now. Call ended. Hensley turned. Smiled. Late shift, Sergeant? Yes, ma'am. That night, Amelia finally made her decision. She wouldn't just observe anymore. She would document everything. Carefully. Legally. Patiently. Because truth didn't need to shout. It just needed to survive long enough to be heard. 3 days later, something happened that changed everything. King Charles collapsed during a private meeting. Not severe. But enough to force emergency internal medical evaluation. And Dr. Mercer was not allowed in. Instead, original oncology team was called. Emergency consultation. And suddenly, the real diagnosis returned to official file circulation. Stage 4 progression. Limited timeline. Urgent decisions required. The palace entered silent crisis mode. And Queen Camilla was not informed immediately. For the first time, the balance of power shifted. And Amelia realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about abdication anymore. This was about legacy, about history, about who controlled the final chapter of a king's life. That night, Princess Anne sent one message. Prepare. Everything changes tomorrow. And Amelia understood. The hidden war inside the palace was about to become visible. To everyone. The truth no crown can hide. The storm didn't begin with thunder. It began with silence. The kind of silence that spreads through power when everyone suddenly understands something terrible has become real. Buckingham Palace woke before dawn. Not for ceremony. Not for celebration. For crisis. At 5:30 a.m., emergency protocol activated inside the king's private medical wing. No public alarms. No announcements. But internally, everything shifted. Senior staff were called in. Royal physicians rushed through restricted corridors. Security tightened around the East residence. Sergeant Amelia Rhodes was moved inside the secondary medical security ring. Closer than ever before. Closer than she wanted to be. At 6:12 a.m., Princess Anne arrived. No press. No public motorcade. Just a plain dark vehicle and two trusted officers. She walked past Amelia and stopped. "Stay alert today," and said quietly. "Yes, Your Royal Highness." And hesitated, then added, "Today decides history." Then she walked inside. Inside the medical wing, the original oncology team had returned. Dr. Patel. Dr. Morrison. Senior Royal Medical Advisor Dr. Kingsley. Dr. Mercer. Nowhere in sight. And that alone told Amelia everything. At 7:45 a.m., Camilla arrived. Not rushed. Not panicked. Controlled. Perfect. But Amelia saw something in her eyes. Not fear. Calculation. The Queen entered the medical consultation room. The door closed. Inside, voices rose quickly. Not shouting. But intense. Then silence. Then one sentence, clearly audible when the door opened briefly as staff exited. "You should have told me immediately." At 9 a.m., Emergency Family Council assembled. Only inner circle. Only bloodline and essential advisors. But whispers moved through staff like electricity. Real diagnosis confirmed. Timeline worse than previously documented. Immediate constitutional planning required. At 11:20 a.m., Amelia received encrypted message from Princess Anne. "Mercer under review. Do not engage." Amelia understood. The system was correcting itself. But slowly. And slowly might not be enough. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. Queen Camilla requested to walk the palace gardens. No press. No staff. Only one guard escort. Amelia. The winter air was cold but bright. They walked in silence for several minutes. Then Camilla spoke. "Do you know what it feels like, to wait 40 years for something?" Amelia remained professional. "I cannot imagine, Your Majesty." Camilla smiled slightly. "No. Of course you can't." They walked further. "History is cruel to women who wait," Camilla said softly. "Especially women who wait for power." Amelia said nothing. Then Camilla stopped walking. Turned. Looked directly at her. "Tell me honestly, Sergeant. Do you think I am the villain in this story?" The question landed heavy. Amelia chose carefully. "I think history is complicated, Your Majesty." Camilla laughed once. Smart answer. Then quieter. "I loved him when loving him destroyed my life. My reputation. My future. And now history wants to shorten my time beside him." For a moment, she didn't look like a queen. She looked like someone who had fought too long to step backward. That night, Amelia met Daniel again. This time in total darkness along Thames Walkway. "Medical review triggered," she told him. Daniel's eyes widened. "That means?" "Yes. Real timeline is now back on record." Daniel exhaled slowly. "If this becomes public, markets react, governments react. Commonwealth reacts." "I know. You're not just protecting a family anymore," he said. "You're protecting global stability." 2 days later, the crisis escalated. International leaders quietly contacted Palace. Succession planning discussions moved from theoretical to immediate preparation. And inside Palace, lines formed. Not publicly, but emotionally. Family. Legacy. Duty. Love. History. Then came the moment nobody expected. The king requested full private family meeting. No staff. No advisors. Only family. The meeting lasted 3 hours. No leaks. No reports. No whispers. But when the doors opened, Princess Anne looked relieved. Prince William looked devastated. And Queen Camilla looked like someone who had just lost something she had spent her life reaching toward. That night, Amelia stood watch outside the king's private office. Inside, faint voices. Then silence. Then movement. The door opened. The king stepped out slowly. Older. Thinner. But calm. He saw Amelia. "Stop.
Keep pace, we're
Sergeant
almost there."
Rhodes." "Yes, Your Majesty.
Vital stable,
You have
let's
served
move.
with honor." Her throat tightened. "Thank you, sir." He nodded. Then said something she would never forget. "History is not written by those who want power most, but by those who protect others from its cost." Then he walked away. The next morning, the palace prepared for announcement. Not abdication yet, but preparation, transition framework, public reassurance, market stability, constitutional continuity. Princess and sent final message to Amelia. You did your duty. History will not know your name, but it will know your impact. Amelia stood in the East Gallery that evening. Portraits of kings and queens looked down. Empires built. Empires lost. Power gained. Power surrendered. And for the first time, she understood something deeply. The crown was not gold. It was sacrifice. But deep inside the palace, one final decision was still forming. One final emotional confrontation still coming. And one final truth, still waiting to be revealed. The announcement that changed the monarchy forever. The world felt it before it was announced. Markets slowed. Newsrooms shifted tone. Government offices across continents moved into quiet alert. Because when a monarchy that old prepares to change, the entire world listens. Inside Buckingham Palace, the morning air carried something heavier than tension. It carried inevitability. Sergeant Amelia Rhodes reported for duty at 5 a.m. The palace was already awake. Press coordination teams, legal advisors, constitutional experts, communications staff preparing statements in multiple languages. No one said the word out loud, but everyone knew. Today would mark the beginning of the end of an era. At 6:30 a.m., Princess Anne walked past Amelia again. This time she stopped. Are you ready for what comes next? And asked quietly. Amelia answered honestly. No one is ever ready for history, ma'am. And nodded once. Good answer. Then she added something unexpected. My brother asked about you. Amelia froze. He said some people serve the crown without ever wearing it. And gave the smallest hint of a smile. Then continued walking. At 8 a.m., the king requested a short private chapel visit. No cameras. No press. Only one security officer allowed inside outer hall. Amelia. The king walked slowly but with dignity. When he passed her, he paused briefly. Sergeant Rhodes. Yes, your majesty. You have a steady presence. Thank you, sir. He nodded once and entered the chapel. Amelia stood guard outside. Inside, faint echoes of prayer drifted through stone walls. For the first time, Amelia didn't see a king. She saw a man preparing to let go of something he had waited a lifetime to hold. At 10:15 a.m., emergency family session ended. At 11:40 a.m., official announcement time was confirmed. 6 p.m. London time. Global broadcast. At 1 p.m., something unexpected happened. Queen Camilla requested to see Amelia privately. Not standard protocol. But the order came directly. The Queen's private sitting room felt different now. Less guarded. Less sharp. Camilla sat by the window. Not fully dressed for public appearance yet. Just quiet. Sergeant Rhodes, she said without turning. Yes, your majesty. Do you know why history is cruel? Amelia stayed silent. Because it only remembers outcomes. Not sacrifices. Camilla finally turned. I loved a man when loving him made me the most hated woman in the country. Her voice was calm. Honest. Not defensive. I lost friends. Reputation. Years of public humiliation. She paused. And I stayed anyway. Amelia saw something new. Not power. Not ambition. Just exhaustion. I thought, when this day finally came, it would last longer. Silence filled the room. Then Camilla straightened slightly. But history doesn't care what we hoped for. She stood. Thank you for your service, Sergeant. It sounded final. At 4:30 p.m., the palace entered full lockdown preparation. Security perimeters doubled. Internal movement restricted. All staff placed on broadcast readiness. At 5:55 p.m., Amelia took position in the East Gallery. Large screens activated across palace interior. Staff gathered quietly. No one spoke. 6 p.m. The broadcast began. The king appeared seated. Composed. Dignified. Calm. He spoke slowly. Clearly. He spoke about service. Duty. Time. Change. He spoke about gratitude. About family. About responsibility to the future. Then he said the words everyone expected. And no one was ready to hear. He announced intention to begin formal abdication transition process. Not immediate, but soon. Orderly, stable, dignified. For the country, for the Commonwealth, for the future. Inside the palace, silence fell. Not shock, not chaos, just the weight of history moving. Amelia glanced around. Some staff wiped quiet tears. Some stood straighter. Some just stared at screens. The broadcast ended with one final statement. Leadership is not about holding power. It is about knowing when to pass it forward. At 6:23 p.m., palace phones began ringing non-stop. Governments, embassies, world leaders, markets, media, the world reacting. But inside the palace, something more human happened. Family gathered privately. No cameras, no press, just people processing the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. That night, Amelia stood her final shift in the East Gallery for this phase of history. Portraits watched from the walls. Kings who ruled during wars. Queens who ruled during change. Leaders who gained power. Leaders who surrendered it. And for the first time, Amelia understood something fully. Power was never permanent. Only service was. At 10 p.m., Princess Anne sent one final message. It's done. Thank you. But Amelia knew something else. The world had heard the announcement. But the emotional cost, the personal cost, the final resolution, was still coming. Because endings were never clean. And history always had one final chapter left to write. The legacy no crown can take away. History rarely ends with a moment. It ends with a feeling. A quiet understanding that something larger than one life has shifted forever. 3 days after the announcement, the world had already adjusted. News channels called it the most dignified transition in modern royal history. Financial markets stabilized. Commonwealth leaders issued statements of support. Public reaction moved from shock to respect. But inside Buckingham Palace, the emotional reality was still unfolding. Sergeant Amelia Rhodes walked the East Gallery one last time under transition security rotation. The portraits felt different now. Not like symbols of power. Like reminders of responsibility. Every monarch on those walls had faced the same truth. The crown was never truly owned. It was borrowed. At 8:20 a.m., Amelia received notice. Private recognition ceremony, internal staff only. No media. No announcements. No history books. Just the people who kept history standing. The ceremony was held in a smaller royal hall, not the grand throne room. Because this wasn't about spectacle. It was about gratitude. Senior staff gathered. Security officers. Medical team. Private advisors. Household staff. People the world would never know. But who carried the weight of stability. The king entered slowly, supported but steady. Prince William stood beside him. Princess Anne stood nearby. Queen Camilla stood slightly apart. Not distant. Just reflective. The king spoke briefly. He thanked the staff. He thanked the guards. He thanked the people who made public calm possible. Then he did something unexpected. He called Amelia forward. Every step toward him felt surreal. She saluted. Sergeant Rhodes, he said. Yes, Your Majesty. You protected truth when it would have been easier to protect comfort. Her throat tightened. I only followed my oath, sir. He smiled gently. That is what makes history safe. He handed her a small royal service medal. Not public. Not historic. But real. And deeply earned. Then something even more unexpected happened. Queen Camilla stepped forward. The room went completely still. She looked at Amelia directly. For what it is worth, Sergeant, you were loyal. Truly loyal. Even when it did not favor me. Amelia answered carefully. I was loyal to the crown, Your Majesty. Camilla nodded slowly. Yes, you were. And in that moment, there was no rivalry. No tension. Just two people who understood the cost of loyalty. Over the next weeks, transition planning continued quietly. Prince William increased official duties. Public confidence remained strong. The world adjusted to the coming change. One evening, as winter began to soften into early spring, Amelia stood post in the palace gardens. Princess Anne approached. You'll be transferred to Royal Strategic Security Division, Anne said casually. Amelia blinked. That's senior protection strategy, ma'am. And nodded. You've earned it. Then she added quietly. You did more than protect a building. You protected timing. And timing protects nations. Later that night, Amelia walked alone past the palace gates. Tourists still gathered. People still smiled. Life still moved. And she realized something powerful. History doesn't feel like history when you're inside it. It just feels like responsibility. Months later, the formal abdication ceremony took place. Orderly, respectful, dignified. The world watched. But Amelia didn't watch as a spectator. She watched as someone who had helped make sure the moment happened the right way. Prince William stepped into his new role with calm strength. The king stepped back with dignity. Queen Camilla stepped into a quieter but respected historical position. Not erased, not defeated, just part of a larger story. 1 year later, Amelia stood on a balcony during a national celebration event. Not in spotlight, never in spotlight, but present, watching the future move forward safely. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She opened it. One message. No signature. The crown remembers service. She smiled slightly, deleted the message, and looked back toward the city, because she finally understood something most people never would. Power fades. Titles change. History rewrites details. But service lasts forever. And somewhere deep inside the palace archives, there would never be a headline about Sergeant Amelia Rhodes. No documentary. No public speech. No statue. But there would be something more important. A moment in time where one person chose duty over fear, truth over comfort, and stability over silence. Because the crown was never about ruling. It was about protecting something bigger than any one person. And sometimes, the people who protect history are the ones history never sees. The end.